Sit down and just listen here. But who knows what we might say? You can listen like a child while sitting in the car or taking a stroll. You'll be amazed with outspoken exchange.
Hello and welcome. Welcome to another
Welcome.
episode. I'm your girl Toy,
And I'm Cree.
and we have a special guest here with us, my friend LaShonda Blevins of over 30 years, right? And so keeping in celebration of Pride Month, we've invited LaShonda Blevins here to talk with us. She is a marriage and family therapist who identifies as a lesbian. She and her wife, and we'll talk about that later, she and her wife will be celebrating 8 years of marriage in August. Congratulations. Uh, she is she's currently a doctorate candidate at the University of Chicago Professional Psychology Clinical Psychology Program. She holds two master's degrees, one in clinical psychology from Antioch University and business management from the University of San Diego. Prior to becoming a therapist, LaShonda worked 20 plus years in corporate America. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Toy. I'm so glad to be
Welcome.
here. Hi, Lucretia.
Hi, Shonda.
Okay, so we're continuing from our last episode, and we are celebrating Pride Month, and we will be continue to talk about the LGBTQIA plus community. But we're going to start with Sean. So back in the days,
Oh gosh, you started with back in the day.
back in the days when we were rocking, honey, you had a husband, a man,
With the T at the end.
Husband.
husband, and and you have three beautiful children. So you know what my question is.
I'm listening.
What had happened?
What
What had happened?
what had happened, Toy? Well, growing up, um, it wasn't in my mind. It wasn't an idea. As I got older, I began to think about women. However, it was just something that wasn't my family of origin. It wasn't our norm. So it was suppressed, right? It was rebuked. Was a devout Christian, like you said, married to my husband, in ministry and raising our children. And it just was not a part of my life. And I remember realizing that I could never be saved enough and I could never preach enough and I could never love God enough to overcome this unhappiness that I had within myself. And so my transition happened, but my personal transition didn't happen in coming out as a lesbian until after my son, my oldest son, came out as gay when he was a teenager. And like I said, I was a gospel preaching missionary in the church. And I was devastated, to be so very honest. I was devastated. We were raised, like I said, in the church. We pray, we fast. And so, we were praying and fasting that God would take that away. And it was the same prayer that I had prayed for myself over the years, that he would just take those desires away, and they never went away. And so for my son, they didn't. And I remember going to a support group for mothers with gay sons. And it was at that support group that I was asked the question, what are you afraid of? And when I answered that question, I was afraid of me. I was afraid of coming out with my own sexual desires that I had suppressed for many, many years.
That
Question.
says a lot. So it's not even the fact that you were afraid to come out based off what people thought. It was more so just, what you had going on within yourself.
Absolutely. It was within myself, again, based on my foundation of belief, right? And so it was just something that you didn't accept, you didn't adhere to. And so, like I said, we would pray it away. But a decision had to come: would I accept my son the way that he was, or would I reject him? and I couldn't reject my son. And so I began the process of how do I support my son in being a gay man? And that changed my life.
So question, it was
Yeah.
at the meeting, the support group, where you finally came out, or you felt like you were finally having the courage to come out yourself while you were supporting your son?
All of that, all of that. I did not come out to my family at that time. It was actually maybe 3 years later that I actually came out to my family and began to date women at that time. But in the beginning, yes, I began to support my son in his coming out as a gay man. And in doing so, there was this evolution of myself during that time.
So I have like a combo question.
Okay.
So was your family supportive of your decision? What did your support system look like in the beginning versus what it looks like now?
That's an amazing question. Um, Really interesting. My family of origin didn't actually have a lot to say, to be very honest. It was more so me and the church family. So when I came out, my children were surprised, of course, because I had raised them, no, 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 to homosexuality. And the question was, wait, you told us life was red. Now you're saying life is blue? And I'm saying, actually, no, it's more so like a rainbow. Life is more of a rainbow, right? And it was a very difficult conversation, I'll be very honest, but they were very open to it. And that was the beginning of the process. I did eventually leave the church at that time. Like I said, I was in ministry. The church still doesn't accept homosexuals, that we attended. I won't identify the church. However, with that being said, it was the beginning of even my now career.
Mm.
My curiosity in clinical psychology and the effects of of rejection, the effects of not being able to identify with who you are, was the beginning of me in my career, my now career.
Would you call yourself, at this point now, so lesbian? You said that's non-binary, right?
No, I do identify as a lesbian, but there are individuals who choose not to identify with any of the letters right under the umbrella of homosexuality. Um, for example, you say L, the lesbian, but there are some people that says I don't want to be identified as a lesbian, nor do I want to be identified as a gay man or transgender or queer, and therefore they are non-binary. They're not bounded to a title, right? That means they don't want to be identified as a woman or as a man. So you will hear terms as them, they, or theirs, right? Very neutral gender.
Is that equivalent to being fluid?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
And that is another word you will hear, another terminology you will hear is fluid, meaning I can go this way or I can go that way, right? They individuals typically have interest in both sex.
So are you?
No, no, I'm not fluid. I do identify as a lesbian. Like you said, I am married to a woman. I've been married to my wife now for August will be 8 years. And since then, I have not been with a man since I have identified myself as a lesbian. That is my preference.
Okay, and no desire, of course not.
No, I love my life. However, I am not a male basher. I did not decide to, to be a lesbian because I was so broken by men that I just didn't want a man anymore. I didn't choose to be with a woman because I don't like men. I think men smell great. I love biceps and triceps. However, there are other things I just prefer.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
That's fair.
Okay. So let's go back. Your son.
Yes, ma'am.
So we have a lot of things in common, just for being friends for over 30 years. However, so we both have children that are part of the LGBTQIA plus community.
Yeah.
Your oldest son is gay, And how old was he when he came out? Or was this something that you already knew and just waited for him to come out? Or
Do
how?
you know? Wow, that is a loaded question, Toy. So I will be so honest. We knew that Kyle was different at 4.
At 4?
At 4.
Wow.
And I remember telling one of our college friends, I won't say her name, and I was crying, I'm falling all apart. And she was like, "What are you doing?" She's like, "We had this conversation when he was 4." I'm like, "You're right." And so she said, "So what are you gonna do?" And that was really the question. She was like, "This is your son. What are you gonna do?" And I didn't have a choice. I was gonna love my son and support my son. That was the decision. But we did. We knew Kyle was gay and different at 4. He never played in my heels. He never wore my clothes. He never played in makeup. But he has such a tender, loving spirit at the age of 4. And as he grew up, yeah, we made him play. We made him play sport, and he did. He did a phenomenal job. But he would be the guy on the field after a touchdown doing pirouettes. He was the boy on the court, right? Instead of shooting the ball, he's standing there spinning around in circles and doing leg extensions. Right? We knew he was different, but it was just very hard to accept.
Question. So you say that, and you were in a support group. You went to a support group to, I'm sure, for just the camaraderie and just being with other people, of like going through the same thing. But you also had those feelings, right? Prior to you going to the support group. So why
I did.
disturbing that your child was gay, but you were having those same feelings? So why
I
was it disturbing to you?
You know what, Toy? It was, I really believe it was in the upbringing of spiritual awareness, right? Or spiritual insight is what we were taught. And so for many years, like I said, we prayed it away. That was the attempt anyway, to pray it away, to, put blessed oil on us, right? To just really strip and fast away these things that were ungodly.
Mhm.
And so for me, it was, you are married. Those are desires that you do not entertain. That is not of God. And so I did it. I didn't entertain it. And so when I went to the support group, again, the support group was, I had made a decision, to support my son, right? And that was hook or crook. If leave the church, if that's what it meant, whoever I needed to walk away, if that's what it meant, I was prepared to do that. I didn't address me at that time. I was really focused on my son. However, it did stir something up in me that I wasn't able to accept him because I wasn't able to accept myself. And in this clinical work that I do, that is really a major part of what the LGBTQ community goes through is identity, being accepted, loved, affirmed for who they are. And that came with a lot of long-term effects for me personally. And even with my son, we've worked through a lot over the years of how has it made individuals feel to just be themselves, walk around in shame, disappointment, self-loathing, right? Sometimes unable to be transparent just as who you are, right? And that's what I was going through. Um, was I couldn't get enough degrees, I couldn't make enough money. Like I said, I was never saved enough because no matter what I did, I still just didn't feel like I was myself.
Mhm.
Didn't feel like I was being honest with myself.
Interesting.
I just thought of a question. And my question is, do you believe that being part of the LGBTQIA plus community is a choice? Or do you believe that people are genetically wired to be, to just
To be-
fall
to be-
into one of these categories?
I am not a scientist. I do wish I was, right? Some science will say it is genetic. And then there are some of us, and again, I'm not a scientist, that would say it's not necessarily genetic. I truly was attracted and loved men. I now am attracted to women. For me, it's a choice. My son, on the other hand, would answer, that's how he was born.
Okay, and I was gonna ask you, what was your perspective on that, being that you saw certain things in him at a certain, at a younger age.
Yeah, yeah. At
No.
the age of
So
4,
at
we
that
saw.
point, it's not like he's making the decision to be more feminine or more nurturing or more.
I agree. I agree.
Mhm.
But for me, for me, I was a girly girl always, right? And like I said, I genuinely love men. I don't, even today, I don't have an issue with men. Whereas some people go, oh, I can't stand the sight of men or the smell of. That's not my story. That's not my story. I met my wife. I was not looking to date a woman, but I met my wife. Um, Found her absolutely amazing, and she is my person.
He is amazing. I can.
She is my person, and
No,
so
is she, and I'm sorry, I just have to ask,
yeah,
is she your first experience?
she is. She was my first girlfriend, and now my wife.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we won't go into it, but I had something to do with their.
All right. Thank you,
I
Joy.
them up, but I had something to do.
You did. You did. You did. You did. And so
If it wasn't, I can't say if it wasn't for me, she wouldn't be a lesbian, right? No.
is it you? Is it on? Is on you? Reason that I'm not touching that. But I'm sorry. Go ahead. You were gonna ask me another question?
So when it is your first experience, how do you know?
Know what?
That this is what it is, like, as far as, like,
Are you
how do
talking
you,
about the sexual? Are you talking about the sexual intersection of sexuality, or are you and
like,
commencement
just
of it?
you and the other person, is it just chemistry? Like, how does
Yeah,
that work? I guess it's just the same as a man and a woman.
I was gonna say that. It is the connection. The same with the man and a woman. It is the same attraction. Um, I'm physically attracted to my wife. I am sexually attracted to my wife. The characteristics of who she is meets and falls into a line of who I was looking for in a mate, right? She met all that criteria. And we have watched each other evolve in this relationship. Um, and we don't have any questions about it. We don't have any doubts about it. And the love is so very real and it's so very genuine. I don't think I've ever been in love as much as I am with my wife. And that doesn't mean that I did not love my ex-husband. Like I said, I have 3 beautiful children from my first marriage. And my ex-husband, and my now wife, when we have family events, they, talk and get along and communicate around our children. They are our children, and we have a grandchild, and this is our family. I did not ask for his permission. I've never asked him what he thought or felt about it. No offense, that wasn't significant or important to me. We were divorced, had been divorced. I didn't divorce him for my now wife. However, I didn't date other men after, right? So when you say, was she my first encounter? Yes, yes, she was.
So
But yeah, the chemistry was the same.
now that we talked about your transition and, because girl, I needed to know because like I said, when we were rocking, girl, you was married with a husband.
Married with husband.
So we want you to bring your clinical perspective into the conversation.
Yes,
So we both know, we all know that there's a lot of trauma that goes along with being part of the LGBTQIA plus community. And
yeah,
unfortunately, and that's because, you know, of other people's hangups.
that's right. That's
Instead
right.
of minding their own business and allowing love to be love, you know. So I just want you to, you know, give us some information about, you know, just a clinical perspective.
I appreciate that. And you're right. We do need to allow love to be love. And not just love, but support and affirmation of individuals. And not just in the LGBTQ community, but more so in the community because they are targeted. Sometimes their lives are very much in danger because they're individuals that do not accept, um, those that fall under the umbrella of homosexuality. And so when you talk about the LGBTQIA community, you're talking about a population of people that have suffered, and many of them are, and not many, they are survivors of sexual experiences, violence, abuse. They are targeted. Many of them suffer sexual abuse in their childhood years, and there's this high risk of danger for them. And unfortunately, in our society, it has improved, but it affects their psychological well being when they are not accepted for who they are, when they are bashed, when they are intentionally targeted to be harmed because of who they love or how they choose to identify. And so, in doing this work, one of the greatest found experiences that I have is just accepting people how they want to be accepted. It goes a very long way. And when we don't, as a society, you are telling people that they're unseen, they're unheard, they're unworthy, and that they should walk around in shame. And so in the community, it's very hard for them because I feel like it's a coat that's been put on them, and we need to take it off. We need to take that coat off and allow them to be humans who have chosen, and some who haven't, to live the way that they want to live. What's wrong with that? But when we don't support them, it causes so many other psychological effects. Often we find that individuals begin to use drugs and alcohol to numb how they feel because they've been rejected and ostracized. Many are estranged from their families. Many don't have families. They end up in the streets. They end up homeless. Many of them end up in sex trafficking or being sex trafficked because they have nowhere to go. And so when we begin to embrace them and make space for them versus finding reasons to ostracize them, we will have a larger body of people who love and wants to be loved. And for me, it's really that simple.
You know, I will say that when Savannah came out to my husband and I as transgender, it was a struggle because it was something that was new to me, and it's just something that I've always dealt with from afar,
Hmm.
you know. And I thought at first I said, well, I was thinking, well, why can't you just be gay? And it was just because of the fear.
Hmm. Hmm.
It was the fear of knowing that someone could hurt my child because of who she is.
Yeah.
Just the fear, you know, and that is what had me so frightful. I didn't care what anybody else would say. I
Hmm.
didn't care what my friends thought. I didn't care what my family thought. I didn't care what my mother would think.
Hmm.
All I cared about was my child, her happiness, and then the safety,
Yeah.
you know. So I struggled with that like a lot. And and I know that that's the reason why, you know, I my child is lucky too because I'm a supportive mother. So that's my child. I don't care what she told me. I'm gonna rock with her. Period. And I'm going to make sure that she's successful because I knew that just being gay
Mm-hmm.
or and now transgender, she's going to have a harder life. So
Mm-hmm.
try to have conversation after conversation and say, look, you have to step your game up. You have to get a career.
Okay.
You have to be successful because you don't want to be the stereotype. You don't want to fall into that stereotype because I do know that the age, the maximum age for transgender women of color, their survival is not
Mm-hmm.
past 35 years old. That's
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow.
frightful. That is frightful. As a mother of a woman of color, Black transgender child,
Yeah,
that's frightful to know that my child might not live past 35.
very frightful. Very, but
So,
that's for any parent, right?
yes,
I'm
and
sure. You,
let me tell you this.
yeah.
I saw a program a couple nights ago,
Yeah.
and it was on the transgender community, and a lot of them were women of color.
Mm-hmm.
There was this siblings. There were siblings. One was a transgender male, female to male,
Mm-hmm.
and then the female child was non-binary.
Okay.
They were both murdered
By
by
their
their
parent.
mother.
Mm-hmm. I just heard that recently. Was there any narrative around the mother's reasoning?
This was it was a show I think on CNN that I was watching because LGBTQ month, so everybody's having these programs, and it was strictly on the transgender community, and it was just in passing where they were flashing the pictures, and
Mm-hmm.
they went over it briefly, but they didn't go into detail as to what happened. So I don't know if she had any type of issues. I have no. Well, she clearly has an issue because she murdered her children. I don't know that, but just to hear that, like, you know, you already have to protect your children from this evil ass world,
Yeah.
period. But you have a parent who bore these children.
Yeah.
She killed them because of who they were.
And Toy, the unfortunate part about that is that there are so many on the streets because their parents don't accept it. And
Right.
so I applaud you. I commend you for being that support for your daughter. Um, Affirming is the most important thing we can do, to affirm them for who they are, how they are, meet them where they are, and love them. Because there are a lot of people who do not love their children and who send them to the streets. And the unfortunate part about that number is that that's the number that we know. Who's counting those that left home and no one know where they are or where they went?
Right.
No one's looking for them.
Right. Because according to the stats so far, we're just what in June?
Yeah.
28 transgender women have been murdered since the
And
beginning.
those are the ones that we know the names.
And
The
those are
fact.
the ones that we know their names. And it has been strictly because they are transgender.
Yeah, it is. It's very much hate crime. It's very much a hate crime. And it's very unfortunate. I'm so sorry that they do suffer and deal with that. Like I said, the work that we do, many of the survivors, it's really helping them and affirming them with their identity. And the fact that, again, many of them don't have support.
Right.
Many of them have been in the streets since they were young. So you mentioned your daughter, going to school and becoming a nurse. Just imagine how many don't have high school educations or college education because they were ostracized at such a young age by their families. That's a
Yes.
big fault.
That
Right.
makes sense. And so with that, there's no support. So it's almost like these individuals are left out to the wolves to fend for themselves.
Yeah.
Whereas I was gonna speak to um anyone in that community, you have to almost keep your circle small, and you have to ensure that your audience is informed. If you are a transgender male or a female and you're, you know, engaging with anyone, you want to be, open if you see it's going a certain direction.
Yeah,
Um,
I had that conversation with Savannah
mhm.
about because when I watched the program, I immediately went into her room and was like, "Hey, don't go out with anybody that I don't know.
Okay.
Ever lie. You make sure you know what I mean? Like, don't trick anybody because I know
Mhm.
sometimes people are murdered because of you trick them,
Yeah.
right?" And she said, all those women were not murdered because they tricked someone.
Mm,
They were murdered because whoever they were with
Interesting.
were probably on a down low and
mm.
didn't want anybody to find out. They didn't want anybody to tell the tea.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I mean? So it's not always where someone was tricked. It's just that these men, you know, macho men,
Yeah,
that's a lot of them love beautiful transgender women.
absolutely.
And if
Yeah.
they,
And the other part too is that they're targeted.
yeah, they're targeted. And if they feel like they're going to get caught, so it's that's why I'm saying it's like because I know she would never trick anyone.
Right.
So that's why I'm just fearful because transgender women do get targeted. Because men, I'm sorry, a lot of men love transgender women, but they'll never tell you.
True. Just like you have those men who love, voluptuous. They like the big girl.
Yeah,
Yeah, right.
right.
And I don't know what it is in the society that causes individuals to, behave those that way, right? Like I said, I'm not a scientist in this clinical work. However, um, my dissertation, the work that I am seeking to do my work around is to get a better understanding and a clearer understanding so that we can begin to make more strides and more changes within our society and in the community where people can be safe and people can feel safe being themselves, right? And being who they are and loving freely and loving openly.
Yes, yes.
I think it's the cultural constructs
Yes.
that have been set in place. And it's if you don't do this, you're not accepted. And it's just these what we classify as normal. What is normal?
Right.
Right.
And that's a conversation all by itself. What is
Right.
normal, right? I mean, you come into my home, normal is what you get. You're gonna get in my family. My daughter's heterosexual, my youngest son heterosexual, my oldest son and I, we're not, right? So when you come to our house, we have a rainbow, we have a plethora of friends, right? I still have heterosexual friends that I spend time with. I have friends that I'm endeared to. All of my friends are not in the gay community, right? And nor should they be, nor do
Mhm.
they have to be. It's not
Right.
that you, because you identify LGBTQ, that's your world. No, there are individuals who are part of this major world. And guess what? We just fit because we are just human. We're just human,
Right.
right? And so this construct, like you were talking about, of heteronormative, it has to change, and it is changing, right? Um, you could see the change by now it's LGBTQIA plus, where
Right.
before it was just LGBTQ. Now we've broadened this umbrella that no one, right, is left out. everyone has a space to identify with who they are and be affirmed in it and be accepted, right? That's the work we have to do as a society.
Mhm.
So come on, community. We need to get together, stick together, and understand that we're all individuals. We all have our own personal feelings, but love is love. And it should not matter to you what someone else is doing in their bedroom or who they love, who they want to marry, you know?
That's
Right.
right.
So,
That's right.
yeah.
That's right. Well,
So,
I thank you guys so much for addressing the topic. I do hope that it is talked about and supported and expressed outside of the month of June, right? Because we are LGBTQIA plus all year long, and we love all year long. We are humans all year long, and so thank you, ladies, for this open space, this open forum to acknowledge and to give space and homage to the LGBTQ community. And we are very proud to say that we love you and we thank you for this space.
thank you.
You're very
It
welcome.
will not be the last episode because we are going to have my daughter on here and some
Wonderful.
going to have some other surprises. And so
Mhm.
not this is LGBTQIA plus month, Pride Month,
There
and
you go.
we just wanted to spotlight it during this month.
Thank
But
you.
this is also my life, so I live with it every day. So it just will not be for the month of June.
Thank you. And thank you both so much for this space. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
You are welcome anytime.
Well, then I'll see you soon.
So for watching Outspoken Exchange, please like, share, comment,
And subscribe.
and subscribe to our channel so that you will not miss the next episode of Outspoken Exchange. Until next time, bye. It's coming.
We know what you want to hear. You came to the right place. So sit down and just listen here. But who knows what we might say? You can listen at the job while sitting in the car or taking a stroll. You'll be amazed with outspoken exchange.